Hello, everybody, and welcome to Halloween Havoc 1997. It is I, CR Daredevil, bringing you all of the live action, and as I just mentioned, it is Halloween Havoc 97 in our WCW save. It is a big show. I am, I am excited for the show, but I'm also riding a bit of excitement because this is being recorded right after my NFL team, the Philadelphia Eagles, just barely hung on to a victory over the Dallas Cowboys. So it's gonna be I'm gonna be a little excited for this episode for sure. But we have a lot of crazy stuff happening in this episode. Every championship except for one is on the line in WCW. The only championship not on the line being the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, since we still have the tournament going on that is kind of set to conclude at World War III, as it looks like right now. But the U.S. title is on the line in a triple threat matchup as Dean Malenko defends against Chris Benoit and Steven Regal. We have the television championship on the line as Lance Storm defends against Alex Wright. We have the women's championship on the line as Dynamite Kansai defends against Megumi Kudo. Tag team titles are on the line as Sting and Barry Windham team up to take on the odd couple of Steve Austin and Diamond Dallas Page. And then, of course, our big main event. There's a couple of other matches in there too, but of course, our big main event is happening tonight. The cage match, not to escape, but to keep everybody out and to keep them in. Bret Hart, Ric Flair, one-on-one. That should be a hell of a match there. Let's open up the show in front of an insane. You know what? I'll show the attendance and then I'll explain the oddness of the attendance. But in front of you'll see in a second number in a random place in the Southwest, because apparently there was no venue big enough to cover this amount of people that we have. We are opening up with the television championship on the line in a match that goes 14-25. The title is retained as Lance Storm makes defense number 6 of the television championship, defeating Alex Wright by submission with a single leg crab. 68 rating for the match. Pretty good there. Alex Wright with a 62, Lance Storm with a 61. Storm's got a gimmick that's getting stale, so that's not helpful. He's been penalized for having his manager too, apparently. But yeah, it is being held in front of 107,000 people. I will be honest with you all out there. I've been playing TEW for at least a few years now. Never really played too many like WWE saves, so maybe it's a little bit more common in that. This is the first time ever I've seen where it hit 6 digits for an attendance. I don't remember seeing too often where I ever had a show run where I was over 100,000 people in it. So that's insane to me. That is how much we've built up WCW. The funny thing about this is that this 107,000 people in the Southwest, however, was kind of what I think it was like 100. I think it was like 106. No, it was like 105,000 that they predicted originally. So we got 2,000 more than they predicted. In the Southeast, which of course, as you know, is the home of WCW, we were only expected to get 98,000. So somehow more people wanted to come out to a show in the Southwest than they did in our home region. Who the hell knows? And yes, the popularity is the exact same in both regions. So, whatever. Nevertheless, we have 107,000 people, probably at some football stadium where they're like hanging from the rafters or something like that at this point. I don't know. But yeah, 68 rating for the opening contest. That sees Lance Storm retain the television championship. I thought about putting a different match in the opening contest because I wasn't sure how good this match was going to do, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. We'll take that and run with it. Then after that, we have a backstage interview as Gene Okerlund interviews Mayumi Ozaki. The Ozaki and Medusa are not going to be fighting here tonight, but it is kind of announced here by Okerlund that they will be facing each other at some point here in the near future, some point in the month of November. This got a 70 rating, which is really good, as Ozaki just says that Medusa. You know, she's been hearing all this stuff about Medusa, but when she came face to face with her, she wasn't impressed. She didn't really, you know, she thought Medusa was gonna be like this force that she was gonna have to watch out for, because you know Medusa's been billed as like the top American women's wrestler in the business today and all that, and she looked at her and she wasn't impressed, and so she's gonna feel disappointed when she steps into that ring with her, but she will put her down like she's going to do with everyone else here in WCW. Gained heat for the storyline. Good stuff. Then we have kind of a random match that gets thrown together here, as the kind of the storyline of this matchup, or the purpose of this match really, is Rick Martel and Dawn Marie have been doing this thing recently where Dawn Marie's been trying to get Rick Martel to join the Mayhem Express, which is, of course, Terry Richards, Tom Brandi, and Yoshihiro Tajiri. So she's been trying to convince Rick Martel to join the group, and they've had a couple of victories since he's been like teaming up with them. But she really wanted to give him a opportunity to. It was kind of one of those things that this was kind of covered in like the little not pre-show, but the little like preview for the pay-per-view thing, whatever. She's been wanting to, you know, get him a singles opportunity, and so she heard that Raven was looking for an opponent, or you know, the Raven was looking for a fight, and so she wanted to make it happen. So that's kind of how this got put together. Got a 75 rating as Raven defeats Rick Martel in 11:03 by pinfall with an even flow DDT. 74 from Raven, 55 from Martel. Both Meng and Al Snow were out there at ringside, and you know, so were Brandi, Richards, and Tajiri. But obviously, even though they had the numbers game, Meng is a whole beast in himself, and so, you know, not really too much interference, but it was kind of, you know, the fearful presence of Meng was kind of enough to keep the other side from getting involved in the match either. And Raven comes out on top, 75 rating. Yeah, pretty good stuff there. Not worried about that last note because that's, you know, is what it is. But yeah, pretty good match there. Then after that, we get a backstage segment where we have Too Cold Scorpio and Rocky Maivia backstage, kind of, you know, talking about how they're kind of talking about the flock a little bit, and about how, you know, people have been talking about how the only reason that they lost, or that they were able to beat the flock, is because of Mark turning his back on the flock. That people are kind of questioning whether they could have beat him, could have beat the flock otherwise. And so they're kind of talking about, you know, maybe we need to consider going after them. You know, maybe we need to have a rematch with them, and you know, this time since they have Meng, like we can have a rematch with them, and you know, this time beat them if nobody's going to turn on them, kind of thing. And Ron Simmons shows up, and he says, "No, we're not doing that." And Scorpio Maivia kind of look at him weirdly, and Simmons is like, "I have a different plan. Follow me." So, you know, Scorpio Maivia wanted another shot at the flock, but Simmons kind of tore that down and was going off of something else. So I'm not sure. We're not sure what that's all about, but Ron Simmons is kind of redirecting traffic, so to speak, and trying to get these three, you know, on a different path, I guess. Then after that, this got a 76, which isn't bad, even with the lack of psychology on display and Bagwell seeming off his game. So that's not bad. As about that good heat, decent wrestling, Paul Levesque defeats Mark Bagwell in 10:24 by pinfall to pedigree. 76 rating for the match. 73 from Levesque, 62 from Bagwell. Lost heat for the storyline. Bagwell's still kind of at that point where I probably should be keeping him in a tag team within the Four Horsemen. The problem is that, you know, Benoit's kind of doing his thing. Pillman's out with an injury right now, and obviously Flair's doing his thing. So it's kind of hard to do that, but, you know, I might need to actually keep him in a tag team because he's still not quite at the point where he could be doing singles matches on his own. But I wanted to give him a singles match, just kind of test things out, kind of see how things were going to play out. And, you know, he had a 62, which isn't terrible. But Paul Levesque getting the victory here. And going on from there. So kind of a victory for the NWO over the Four Horsemen, as, you know, technically there's 3 different matches with that happening tonight. I guess technically 4. Megumi Kudo's not really officially a part of the Four Horsemen. Neither is, you know, but she's obviously associated with Dean Malenko, who's kind of an honorary horseman. So kind of by association she is, but officially it's just 3 matches that are NWO versus Four Horsemen on the show. And the NWO win the first one. So we'll have to see what the other 2 look like later tonight. Then, 100 rated promo here as Chris Jericho shows up. Says that it's a travesty that he doesn't have a match here tonight, but that's all right because tomorrow night on Nitro, he's going to go out there and he's going to defeat that that Mike dude, that Mike guy, obviously referring to Mark. He's going to defeat that Mike guy with ease, and he's going to get one step closer to getting the WCW World Heavyweight Championship wrapped around this waist, this sexy waist right here, he says. So kind of kind of bragging about the fact that he's going to win the whole tournament, become the world champion, but we'll have to see if he does. But 100 rating segment there, really good stuff to see. Then after that, women's title on the line, 50 rating. Oof, what happened to this match? I guess because they're both unimportant right now, because Kudo lost some of her popularity after losing the title. But she probably gets some of that back because in a match that goes 10:47, Megumi Kudo pins Dynamite Kansai with the Kudo driver to win back the WCW Women's World Championship. So Kudo, the original champion, is the first ever two-time champion. 50 rating here, 57 from Kansai, 58 from Kudo. Yeah, good stuff there as Kudo gets her championship back. Kansai had a nice little few-month title reign. She held it back. She won it back in July. She only had a couple defenses of it, but she did, hold it for a few months, but decided to go put it back on Megumi Kudo, especially with the storyline I have planned for them, for the women's division heading forward. So Kudo gets the victory, gets the championship back, and we will have to see what her second reign looks like. I mean, her first reign was pretty dominant. She held it for, I believe it was, 8 months? 7, 8 months? So we'll have to see what her next reign, what her current new reign looks like, basically. Then after that, we have a Mark Barrow promo where he's kind of talking about Chris Jericho and the match tomorrow night on Nitro. He says, but he knows that Team Canada will probably be lingering around at ringside for that match. He knows that the Flock are hanging around backstage. They'll be, wanting to get involved because the Flock are acting like babies after Mark Barrow decided to leave their ranks and become his own man again. And by the way, as you see, it does say Mark Marrow. He did change his name back officially to Mark Marrow, and his wife Rena actually did add the Miro part back to her name as well. So, but he's sitting there talking about that stuff when Rikishi, Fatu, and Samu come up, and they're kind of like, hey, we know what it's like to have to kind of watch your back around here, Rikishi's like, that's why I brought in Samu. Like, I wanted someone to watch my back here in WCW. And hey, look, I'm not talking about like forming some sort of stable or group or anything like that. But listen, man, like you guys, you got Team Canada you're going to have to deal with, which we've had run-ins with in the past. You've got the Flock hanging around, which, we've had a couple of run-ins in the past with. Listen, like if you want some help, you want somebody watching your back, you just let us know. And Mark's like, you know what? Let's go talk about that. So, not officially in like an alliance that's gonna be like an official like group that's gonna be formed with these guys, but kind of more of like an alliance, like more like they're kind of watching each other's backs kind of thing. So, we'll have to see how that plays out. But interesting 75 rated segment here. So, looks like Mark Marrow might have some backup heading into tomorrow night's match against Chris Jericho in the second round of the World Title Tournament. Then we get a 75 rated promo here as Bam Bam Bigelow shows up and says that he lost to Steve Austin in the World Title Tournament. He gets that. He lost. Steve Austin was the better man on that night. But if you honestly think for a second that the monster known as Bam Bam Bigelow, the former WCW World Heavyweight Champion, if you honestly think he's going to give up on getting that championship back around his waist, you are sadly mistaken. Because next month is a funny little thing. Next month is something called World War III. It's something that, yours truly, Bam Bam, of course, is very familiar with. Because I've won the 95 World War III. And I cashed it in and won the WCW World Championship that way. So if I can't win the world title in that tournament ongoing right now, then I'm officially entering the World War III. So I can win that again and get the world championship around my waist once again. So there you go. We have our first official our first official entrant into the World War III, into World War III, I guess. I can't really say like World War III Battle Royal over because obviously it's not. It's, the lethal lottery into the Battle Royal. Or World War III Battle Bowl, if you will, since that's, it's basically the Battle Bowl layout as it was in WCW. But Bam Bam Bigelow is officially declared for World War III, so we'll have to see if anybody else declares over the next few weeks or so. Then we go back to the ring. Cruiserweight Championship on the line. Jerry Lynn defeats Rob Van Dam in 854 by submission with a cross arm breaker, making defense number 2 of the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. 70 rating for the match, 89 from Jerry Lynn, 55 from Rob Van Dam. Suffered from a lack of psychology. It's to be expected. They do have great chemistry, though. I tested something with this, which is why the match probably went the way it did. It probably wouldn't have had the lack of psychology, and the in-ring performances might have been a little different had it, because I went and did high spots, as you see here. So, if this was a regular matchup, it might have been a little different. But hey, I kind of wanted to test out the possibility of doing high spots with these two, and, still got a 70 rating. So that's really good. But Jerry Lynn of the NWO making defense number 2 of the Cruiserweight Championship. So at least they did lose the women's title earlier, but they have not lost the Cruiserweight title, and they do still have the chance to win the U.S. title here tonight. But Jerry Lynn getting a title defense against Rob Van Dam in a really good matchup here. Then we have Gene Okerlund coming across Curt Hennig backstage. And he's like, hey, we saw you and Brad Armstrong brawling, having an argument this past Monday on Nitro. What was that all about? And Hennig just kind of looks at him and just kind of walks right past him. So he's not even going to talk about it. But for some reason, there was that argument between Brad Armstrong and Curt Hennig that we don't know anything about right now because Curt Hennig refuses to talk about it right now. So we'll have to see what ends up happening with that. But this got a 69 rating. Nice. As we're going to have to see in the coming weeks what was that argument all about on Nitro this past week. 99 rated promo here. Savage also has a gimmick that's getting stale. I thought I changed Savage's gimmick. Oh well. Ric Flair cuts promo before the main event. It's not right before the main event, but he cuts promo about the main event. Talks about how he was very disappointed about losing this past Monday night at Nitro, but he's not going to let that disappointment get the best of him. He's going to go out here tonight and he's going to kick Bret Hart's ass from, all around that cage and get him to submit. And Randy Savage shows up. And Savage says, listen, I teamed up with you this past Monday on Nitro, and I have no problem going against the NWO. But I want you to remember one thing. I want you and all of your buddies to remember one thing. I was definitely on the path to becoming the WCW World Champion. And then you and your cronies took me out. It wasn't the New World Order that did it. It wasn't anybody else that did it. It was you and the rest of the Horsemen that did it. So I know you are defending WCW right now, and I appreciate that. But I will be coming for you. Especially now that you're not in that tournament anymore. You and I will be having our one-on-one match in the near future. And Flair goes, I wouldn't have it any other way. Just kind of have a little bit of a stare down between these two as we kind of get a little bit of a possible future matchup between Randy Savage and Ric Flair here. But 99 rating here. And we'll have to see how that ends up playing out. Then we have our United States Championship matchup here that gets a 93 rating. Hell yeah. And about that, Superb Wrestling Great Heat, Steven Regal defeats Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko in a triple threat match in 1621. When Regal submitted Benoit with a Regal stretch after blatantly cheating, Sean Waltman showed up to distract Chris Benoit, and Eric Bischoff showed up to distract Dean Malenko. And Steven Regal is your new United States Champion. 93 rating. Regal was the weak link because he's still going through his injury. The good news, and yes, this is going to sound crazy that this is already a thing, but the good news is that his injury is only for about another couple months. I looked at it before I did this, and he's got 2 months and 1 week left of his injury. So another couple months, he's going to be back up to the ratings that Benoit and Malenko are having, if not higher than that, because he was having he was definitely in the 90s before he got hurt. So to have an 81 in-ring performance when he got after getting hurt, there's a good chance he's going to be at least mid to upper 90s when he actually is recovered from his injury. But we have a new United States champion as Steven Regal wins the title in a 93 rated triple threat matchup. The idea, obviously, being that Benoit and Malenko did what they could to take Regal out, and then they fought with each other because, of course, they wanted to fight with each other. But unfortunately, the numbers game got to him, with Waltman and Bischoff getting involved, and allowed Steven Regal to get the victory. So we have a new United States champion. So the NWO lose one belt earlier in the show, but they gain another. Then we have dueling promos here. One of those, like, we have a promo from Dustin Rhodes, and then we get a promo from Booker T, where they're just kind of continuing on this storyline going on right now. It gets a 95 rating. They're kind of continuing to talk, Dustin Rhodes talking about how he's glad that WCW was able to keep Booker T from showing up in the main event on Nitro, because he advanced on, he defeated the legend himself, Ric Flair, and now he's moved on to the next round of the WCW World Championship tournament, and that he is going to make sure that he gets the championship he should have had a shot at and had around his waist years ago at this point, when he goes and defeats whoever wins tomorrow night on Nitro, and then goes on to the finals and wins the championship at World War III. And there's nothing that Booker T is going to be able to do about it. And then we transition to Booker T, who's not happy about the fact that Dustin Rhodes is still in that tournament. And he says, listen, Piper told me that I can't get my hands on Dustin Rhodes until Dustin Rhodes is knocked out of that tournament. And he says that I can't get involved in any matches of Dustin Rhodes in that tournament. But you know what? Dustin Rhodes doesn't have a match tomorrow night. He had a match this past week on Nitro. He doesn't have a match tomorrow night. Just because I can't get involved in his tournament matches doesn't mean I can't go out there and whoop his candy ass. Not candy ass, but whoop his punk ass on Nitro tomorrow night. So he's kind of issuing a challenge. He's telling Dustin Rhodes to show up to the ring so he can whoop his punk ass tomorrow night on Nitro. Whether that happens or not, we'll see, but there you go. Then, in our semi-main event, tag team titles on the line, Sting and Barry Windham defeat Steve Austin and Diamond Dallas Page in 14:25, when Sting gets Diamond Dallas Page to submit to a Scorpion Deathlock to win the tag team titles. That's right, we have new tag team champions. Barry Windham and Sting have won the tag team championships in 1997. Kind of crazy. Steve Austin had control over everyone else. Barry Windham was a weak link, to be expected. 68 from Windham, 83 from Sting, 98 from Austin, and 79 from Page. Gained heat for Windham and Sting's storyline, and lost heat for Austin and Page's storyline. So there you go. We have new tag team champions. Yeah, there's going to be a reason. It's going to be kind of an obvious reason, but there's going to be kind of a reason why I did this. For those who might be thinking, well, this came out of nowhere, like Sting and Barry Windham just teamed up this past Monday on Nitro and all that stuff. I've been kind of building it up for a little while now. And some people, people in the comments have even been saying it too. Like, we need to find something for, you probably need to find a tag team for Sting and Barry Windham to have with each other. So I've been kind of building it up for a little while now, and there'll be stuff they'll kind of be telling their story heading forward. But this is story driven for both teams. There's going to be storyline heading forward with the Odd Couple because of this, and with Sting and Barry Windham. So it'll be interesting to see. But 89 rating here. Still got a really good rating. Even though Steve Austin kind of helped carry the match up, but still got a really good rating. As there you go. We have new tag team champions here, WCW. So 3 titles changing hands here tonight on the show. Only the TV and the Cruiserweight titles stayed with who they were, with who they had, who walked into it with them. All right. And then before the main event, we get a 100 rated segment as Cactus Jack. He doesn't come to the ring. He is backstage, and he says that tonight Bret Hart has a hell of a match against Ric Flair inside of a cage. But tomorrow night, whatever is left of Bret Hart has to step into the ring with Cactus Jack to see who moves on in the WCW World Title Tournament. He says that he is not going to hear any excuses about Bret being beat up or worn out or anything like that, because he's been going to a war with that giant for weeks now at this point. and he says that if Bret Hart is supposedly the man, if Bret Hart is supposedly the best of the best, the excellence of execution, all that kind of stuff, then he will have no problem going out and facing Ric Flair tonight and then facing Cactus Jack tomorrow night. But regardless of what happens tonight, Cactus Jack will leave tomorrow night with the victory and move on to the semifinals of the WCW World Title Tournament. 100 rated segment here, as Cactus has some confidence heading into his match tomorrow night against Bret Hart. And in a 99 rated matchup, sensational wrestling, fantastic heat, Ric Flair defeats Bret Hart inside of the cage in 18.5 minutes by submission with the figure 4 leg lock. 97 from Bret Hart, 94 from Ric Flair. Gained heat for the storyline. 99 rating. I wonder. It was just the low heat for the storyline. That's what took it from being on 100 rating. It's because of the low heat for the storyline, which there was a segment or two in the show that brought the heat down. So maybe that's what helped. Maybe that's what caused it. I don't know, but I'll still take a 99. I will still take a 99. I'm okay with that. Ric Flair defeating Bret Hart inside of the cage and getting him to submit. He said that that was kind of the focal point with these two heading into this matchup, is not, they didn't want to just pin each other. They wanted to get the other to submit, and Ric Flair was able to get Bret Hart to submit inside of the cage without any of the NWO being able to get involved. Ric Flair was able to prove that he was better than Bret Hart on this night and get a big win for WCW, and celebrating at the end of Halloween Havoc. 96 rating for the show itself. Holy crap. Increase our popularity in 40 regions. Let's go. Let's go indeed. What a show there. 96 rating. We are just killing it right now with these shows. A lot of great stuff there. WCW drew 107,000 fans. Show feedback has been incredible. The show is apparently an absolute success. 9.8 million buys on pay-per-view. We were just short of 10 million buys, and officially it was the most watched thing of the night. We had more viewers than Star Trek Voyager did on regular television. That's insane. That is insane. Let's freaking go. Davey Boy Smith apparently got hurt. Sucks for him. He's working in New Japan. I was trying to remember where he was at. Misawa and Chono won the Super Great Tag League. Interesting. Oh yeah, here's a note that I haven't really brought up, because I was kind of letting it happen behind the scenes, but since it's a news story on here, I can bring it up. So, Arn Anderson left. He went on hiatus for a while, and we just let his contract expire. I was like, I didn't know how long he's going to be on hiatus, all that kind of stuff. He recently came back to wrestling. He came back literally a week ago in the game. I think he literally came back right before I recorded the last episode of Nitro. And has now been hired on by USWA and now WWC. I don't plan on bringing him back to WCW right now, as much as that kind of sucks. It would be cool to have him back, especially because he's still technically a wrestler at this point, so he can still have matches. But I don't plan on bringing him back because I've already got the Horseman storyline stuff so set out now that it would be weird to just randomly put him back into things. I've already kind of got everything set up the way I want to with the Horseman right now. And obviously he could come back and have a different role in WCW, but it just would be weird. And so I don't really have any room in my vision of WCW right now to bring Arn back in, which sucks, like I said. If he, in the future, if he actually retires from in-ring, maybe I'll bring him in as a backstage person, like a road agent or something like that. But as of right now, he's back in wrestling, but we're not going to be bringing him into WCW. It's just kind of how that is at this point. Right. Let's look really quick at this screen. As we see that Halloween Havoc tied for the second best show we've ever had. still have that episode of Nitro. They got 97. I guess I can't say still. It just happened this past month, but um, yeah, we have that 96 there for that. Top matches. Obviously, Flair and Hart inside the cage got a 99, so it's tied for our second best match of all time. Did we have any others that broke? Yeah, the U.S. title matchup, Regal, Benoit, and Malenko got a 19th, 93 rating. So, which again would have been better if Regal wasn't hurt. Honestly, that match right there, Regal, Benoit, and Malenko, possibly could have gotten 100 if it wasn't for the fact that Regal was hurt. Honestly, there's probably a good chance it would have gotten 100, but I'll take it. I will take it. Top attendances, yeah, I don't know what happened, but we had 107,000 people show up for the show. Uh, so we blew our previous attendance rating out of the water. Bash of the Beach had 96,000. We blew that completely out of the water. I don't know what happened. I don't. I mean, I did do pre-booking for the show, and I pre-booked a fair amount of the matches far enough in advance that it was going to give me a boost, but I didn't expect it to give me that big of a boost. So it's just really, really weird. And I'll even show here too. Not like I really have anything to cover up right now, but I'll even show here too what I said heading into that episode. Southeast and Southwest are both at 93. And I think they both were, yeah, they're both still at 93 at that point. So I don't know why we had like 10,000 less people in the Southeast where we're out of, but whatever. Also, because I haven't shown this in a while, here's popularity for our company right now. We're at 93, 92s within America. We even have 91 popularity in Hawaii, which is insane. Canada, with the exception of the Maritimes, because it's hard to get popularity there, we're 91s, 90. Saskatchewan, we have an 83, because I think we don't have that good of coverage in Saskatchewan. Not as good as like the other ones. But Manitoba, 89, British Columbia, 90. Mexico, in the 80s and 70s, depending on where the coverage is, basically. British Isles were pretty high up there, with Ireland and Scotland kind of bringing it down a little bit there, but that's fine. Japan, we're in the 90s. Europe we don't. Europe we had it struggle with for a while when it came to coverage. We're starting to get that up now. I think, yeah. Europe we didn't have that good of coverage in for the longest time until we got to large size, and then we were able to get a different broadcasting deal, and that's why you've seen that huge jump, because you see like from November 96 to kind of like March, April, May of 97, like we were kind of up there a little bit, but now from like May of 97 to November of 97, we've jumped up like almost 20 points, or basically 20 points in all those areas. So we're definitely growing a lot more in Europe now that we have the better broadcasting deal that we have there. Oceania, I think right now the only one we have coverage in right now is New Zealand, which is why that's at 27. The other ones are at 18 because I think there's not a broadcaster that we can have at that point. I don't remember. There's something weird about the broadcaster that we had for all of those. And then India, 18. And that's just been another one of those, it's just been slowly growing over time because there's not really a broadcaster in this mod that's set up in India. So we're kind of getting that basically by loose association. So, yeah, I mean, you can see, we'll show you this too really quick. You can see right there. So we have huge coverage in America, huge coverage in Canada, very big in Mexico, big in England, England over, very big in Japan, big in Europe, and then New Zealand we have medium coverage, but all the other ones we don't. We have none. The rest of Australia, and then none in India because there's no broadcasters apparently for that. Well, I think there might be one. I'll show you all real quick. Yeah. So this is the only broadcaster we can get in Oceania right now. It's just the box, which us and WWF and everybody else is basically doing. I don't think there's anything. I mean, we have some of these other ones, but I think you have to be like located there, maybe. Oh no, you have to actually have the popularity in there, which the WWF does. So there's that for them. But I think we dropped weren't enough in popularity or something, or maybe we already had an existing thing that allowed us to have coverage there that expired and we didn't have the popularity there anymore or something. I don't remember what it was, but it was something that kept us from being seen too much. So we just got to grow it the slow way and kind of go from there. And then India there's no broadcasters in this mod. Maybe in due time, I might consider going and grabbing a broadcaster from a different mod. And, if there is one for an Indian one, bring it over. But the problem is that we're still, in 97 in this save. And the next closest mod I have to it year-wise would be like a 2001 mod that I have. So unless there's like broadcasters in those that were, created in the 90s, I don't really want to bring them in because they wouldn't be there at that point anyway. But enough of my random rambling aside. Hopefully you all are still excited to continue watching this series as we are getting close to our second full year in this. Technically we had a couple of months, a couple months into it since it started in September of 95, but we're coming up on the end of our second full year, so we'll see, be able to see like the full awards and everything like that coming up at the end of this year. But thank you all for watching. Definitely appreciate it. Hopefully you are excited to see this series continue, because I don't see it stopping anytime soon. Just because we're the number one company in the world doesn't mean that we're going to be stopping WCW anytime soon. So we'll have to see where things go from there. But thank you all, and we will catch you in this series tomorrow night for Nitro.